We interrupt this program to bring you
kind of banter happening.
No, I just feel like I just don't want it to be a precursor like the interview's cursed or whatever, Jay Gonzo. I couldn't get on the Twitch stream and it was all ruined. Zoom ruined everything.
I should also warn you, my internet's been real weird today. My wife's been trying to like update her operating system and download a couple of things, and it's like given up on her a couple times. If it happens, I'll reset. I'll reconnect as soon as I can. So
that's fine.
Apologies. I want to blame Arizona's Cox Communications for that. That's not me.
It is A-okay. And if worse comes to worse, that's what editing's for. None of this is live, so we can just edit it all together.
Yeah.
Cool. Hey, what is your guys' policy on like swearing? Are you guys you have an explicit tag?
You can say whatever the fuck you want to.
Okay, cool. As you might have guessed, I've been doing a ton of these in the wake of my Kickstarter, and different people have a lot of different policies. So I've been trying to be a good boy, but I do have a tendency to swear a lot, especially when it's stuff I'm excited about.
Well, I hope you swear as much as you want to, because you should be excited about this Kickstarter, because Mano del Destino is on Kickstarter right now. We have Jay Gonzo on the podcast. We're really excited to have you on, man. We're both fans of your work. I picture issue 1 up, 2 years ago? Was it 2 years ago? Yeah, because there wasn't a Heroes this year. So last year at Heroes, Kevin brought me over to the table and we bought your stuff. I was super impressed with it, man. So I'm glad this is happening for you. This is awesome.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. Really appreciate it.
Of course.
Sure.
Yeah, how are you guys holding up? Where are you guys at anyway? We can do this on the air. We'll just.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm in Virginia and Bob's in Ohio. So.
Okay, what part of Ohio?
I'm in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Okay, I've driven through there on my way to Columbus before.
Cincinnati's cool. Like, I dig it. They got a lot of parks around and stuff. It's a nice place to raise a family. We're enjoying ourselves here.
The last time I drove through there, I was listening to that serial they did on the Cincinnati justice system. It did color my view of how I was driving through Cincinnati.
Yeah, they've had some issues in Cincinnati, from what I understand, but I guess they kind of have it. See, it appears they have issues everywhere, which is just kind of the crux of the matter.
Yes.
I live in Phoenix, so I can't really say anything about prejudiced judicial systems.
Well, Phoenix, I mean, that's where Sheriff
Steven
Joe was
Seagal?
from. That's Sheriff. That's Sheriff Joe.
Likes.
No,
okay,
Sheriff
Seagal likes
Joe
that
Arpaio?
dude.
Yeah.
Yes,
exactly.
That's the dude that Seagal likes, right?
Yeah,
That's the dude.
He's got the tent city out there. He's actually gone. He left 2 years ago, 3 years ago, something like that. I think he's trying to run to come back though. I think he retired and then now he's trying to come back. He had the 10 cities. He got surplus tents from the army and just built a city out in the desert.
It's crazy.
Prisoners out there. He's got the striped uniforms and the pink underwear. So because his prisoners were stealing underwear, so he made them all wear pink underwear so that no one would want to steal it.
Yeah.
He brought chain gangs back.
He's a real scumbag. Like he's awful because John Oliver has done a piece about him on his show. So if you're that level awful, then that's pretty bad.
Yeah. He's a cartoon character is what he is. but somehow looks moderate these days. I don't know how that happened.
That's a whole other topic that we could talk about on another podcast.
Yes, we would be lost talking about politics and not comics.
So my first question is, why would you do this to yourself to run a Kickstarter that lasts 60 days? What are you, fucking nuts?
It's twice the normal level of Kickstarter stress. What are you trying to do?
Exactly, because I didn't have enough stress in my life. No, the real answer is so the book itself it's a bilingual flip book, right? So it's in English and Spanish. And if you go check out the Kickstarter video, I kind of explain how a flip book works. Because a lot of people, surprisingly, even comic fans don't understand how a flip book works. And so each, the Spanish half and the English half both get a cover, and they both get to be in the front of the book. It's just how you hold it that determines which is the actual front. And because I didn't want one language to seem like an addendum to the other, right? Like, oh, it's really in English, but we also have Spanish. Like, no, it's in English and Spanish. And you get all 6 issues. It's a complete story arc in both English and in Spanish. You get the full story in both languages. But because of that, it's like a niche audience that's going to kind of appreciate this, right? And it was my contention that like the reason I did the book was because I felt that like the Latino audience was like sorely underserved by the comic, especially with representation, and just the kind of representation you saw was very one-sided and one note. So I really wanted to exemplify the kind of, vibrant, vivid beauty of my culture and get away from like, cartels and sepia tone. And I also wanted to get away from like luchadors being portrayed as like a punchline or a joke, because they're heroes to me. So in doing all of that, like my whole effort has been to get this kind of niche audience, and doing I see that, nice. And in doing that,
what did you see?
I thought you were pointing at a post. I thought geez, that's not. I thought you were pointing at the poster behind you, and that's not. I thought it was El Santo for a second.
No, but I am wearing my Lucha Bros t-shirt.
Lucha Bros.
There you go. Oh yeah.
Because it's AEW tonight, and I got to watch AEW after
nice.
this is over.
I still have seen 0 minutes of that.
Oh, it's
awesome.
good. It's
Awesome.
good. It's good.
I've seen no, I haven't even seen highlights. I hear about them on podcasts. I've been working too hard to really check them out. So anyway, but what I found that in over the past decade of selling these comics at shows and stuff is that I really am serving an underserved audience, like people who see it and dig it, like come and like really appreciate what I've done here. And so, but I know that in order to get to that audience, they've been so underserved by the comic direct market for so long that their ears aren't even out for it anymore, right? Like they don't even know to listen to it. And so your typical like get a Newsarama article or a CBR article, whatever, that's not going to reach these people. Like I literally have to go to them to show them what it is, and all I'm doing, so it's me, doing like a trunk show. Like I'm just driving around trying to show it off. And because of that, and because the audience is kind of niche, I really I wanted to give myself as much time as possible. Like I wanted to make sure, because we've all done that thing where we find out about a Kickstarter that like the day after it closes,
Yes.
or a week after, like I didn't even hear about this, and that's for stuff that's mainstream and on our radar, like it's stuff we should have known about. I mean, like Lucha Libre comics that are done in this kind of Silver Age style, that are this weird kind of like, metatextual relic from a time that didn't exist. Like it's a specialized thing, and it's not for everyone. And it's definitely, even if I got it on the news, like even if I got CNN to report it, the audience I'm going for probably still wouldn't see it. So I'm kind of like, I kind of have to get out there, and like I've been doing, a ton of shows and a ton of, media trying to get it out there, just to let them know that it exists. And there is this thing that is very much for you. Should you want to enjoy it, come check it out, it's going well so far. But I was never going to be one of those things that funds like in a day, and then and then it's all just gravy from there. So it's like, if it was 60 days of worry, 30 days of worry, at my age it doesn't matter. What is time anymore?
See, but in a way though, I think you're also, I don't want to say, because you would know your audience better than I would, but I also think fans of great comics are going to dig this book. Like it is kind of niche in a sense because it's a wrestling book, but it's not a wrestling book because it's also like a Lucha Libre book. But I think that the work is just so strong on its own that you can just attract people that just dig your art style.
It was an easy sell for me to sell it to Bobby, because I just said it looks like Kirby drew a wrestling comic, and
Thank you, yeah.
it's got Kirby crackle, and like, but the colors are not like Kirby.
It's great.
It's like 70s colors with Kirby. Like, it's so great. Like when I saw it for the first time, I was like, this book is just amazing looking. Like he draws like wrestlers really good.
Yeah, it draws people in on that kind of Silver Age aesthetic, and the reason I did that is because the story is set in the 60s, so I wanted it to look like a 60s comic book, which is why it's on uncoated paper, and like the blacks aren't quite 100%, they overprint the color. Like it literally looks and feels and smells like an old comic book because it's on that uncoated paper. You get the ink in the paper, not on it, and it's that absorption print as opposed to evaporative, like it gives off a sense. So but people who like the smell and feel of old comic books are, they're not the same people who are, buying they're not the same people who went and saw the Joker movie. Let's just say that, right?
That's true. That's
so
true.
There's a casual, there's a kind of comic fan that's the preponderance of fans, or a good chunk of them, but there is enough of them who do appreciate like what I do. And I found that like, if what I've done is I've taken the 60s aesthetic and I've kind of shifted it over to like a Latino color palette to give it that kind of bright vibrance that I like of Lucha Libre and of Latino culture, specifically Mexican culture, and in trying to showcase like my what I love about comics, and the people who it catches their eye, like the people who walk by my booth and just like take a second to like look, oh, what's this, and then come and check it out, like they generally like dig it and will want to buy it, right?
Yes.
But there is a whole slew of people who it just does not register, like it doesn't click anything in their head because they have no attachment to Kirby or to old comics at all, or like the look and feel and smell. Like they don't, I've seen people open my comics up and like one of my favorite things is to watch them pull it closer to their nose because they want to get it up there. But there's also, there's an age group demographic maybe that kind of appreciates that. and then some people just kind of don't. And I know that the ones who aren't, that it doesn't click with, like, I'm never going to be able to sell it to them.
Yes.
And the ones who it does are going to come back for every issue. And to me, that's more important. Like, there's a real specific person I made this comic for, and those are the guys that have been there for me for all of these years, through like all of the delays and and how long it's taken me to get the whole arc together. Everyone's always ever been nothing but cool. Like, they're always like, man, it's cool, take your time, stuff's great, we're gonna wait for it.
That's awesome.
And I appreciate that. Yeah. So I mean, and the comic itself is it's a comic book ass comic. Like, I love telling people like that's, I mean, it's a comic book. It's not my movie pitch. It's not my TV pitch. It's not apologizing for being a comic book. Like, there's giant sound effects. There's, I have no thought bubbles is the only thing that kind of, in retrospect.
Oh, come on. It's the 70s, man. It's the 70s.
I wish I would have put more or some thought bubbles in there. I had started with kind of like dual narration boxes, kind of like the modern equivalent to thought bubbles. Just because of like when I know.
You know what? I'm out.
Okay, sorry.
The interview is over.
In my head, it's still someone talking to you. They're not necessarily. It's not internal. But anyway, besides that, it's like there's a confession of artifice. Like, I let you know that this is made up. Like, this is a story, and then go along for the ride. And that way, you're not constantly trying to evaluate its realism. You can just go with the story, right?
No, it's the same thing with our book, with Metal Shark Bro. It's like, if you believe the opening page, then you're good for anything we want to do from there. And there is a similarity, I think, in our titles. They're very different, obviously, but it scratches an itch of a certain person. And so, like, when you're doing all these shows and you're going to all these places, do you find, like, the actual comic book fan, the actual fan of comics is kind of dwindling away? Or are you just do you just try to kind of carnival bark it to everybody? Or can you just look at someone and go, they're not going to be interested in my shit?
I just say hi to everybody.
Okay.
Like, that's my thing. Like, I'm never going to be a barker, because that just turns people off.
You think so?
And I think that I think because of what I do, I have a qualified audience I interact with. And so they're all super stoked that I made a comic book. You know what I mean? Like, I think, so it's hard for me to say that whether or not they exist, because I'm only ever interacting with the people who like comic books, like I said, I make comic book ass comic books, and those guys are like, holy shit, this is a comic book ass comic book. Like, and so, like, 95% of my interactions are with them. And so I go away from a show going like, shit, man, people really dig comic books here. And
See, it's weird though, because sometimes when we leave a show, I feel the exact opposite way. Like, I feel that, like, people enjoy the culture, but they don't want to read the books. They just want to see it on screen.
Or they want to go to the Comic-Con for the experience.
Yeah.
They're not there for the comics necessarily. They're there for everything but sometimes. And it's weird trying to sell your comic to someone who's not, like, trying to buy any comics.
I think I self-filter my own audience, and so I only ever deal with people who are enthusiastic about comic books. It's really that a cosplayer stops by, or it's rare that just a person who's like a looky-loo, comes by. So it's hard for me to say. I mean, I've done well at shows. I think my enthusiasm for my own work, I mean, people can smell the love on a thing, right? Like, they sense when you love what you're doing, and it'll bring in people who love comics. And so I have yet to go to a show where I feel like it's shifted in a way that has been where they're taking over, like where the looky-loos and the people who are just into movies, like, I don't think they're the preponderance of people at shows, but I also kind of regulate what shows I go to. Like, I don't get like, I did San Diego, and I was in the small press area, so just being in that area kind of winnows out all of the people who would want to see cosplayers and like, when you're across from Bean World, like, there's not a lot of people who are just looking for stars to take pictures of, right? We're kind of we're self-filtering again to qualify our own audience. And so, and I did fine at San Diego, but not so. But that was the kind of an eye opener too. It's like, I did as well at San Diego as I did at, like, Phoenix. So good show, but also 130,000 people versus 80,000 people, and I did the same amount essentially.
Yeah,
right.
So, and you probably spent a shit ton more money getting to San Diego than you did being at home in Phoenix.
When I say I made the same amount, I mean that still takes off the hotel price.
Yeah.
So, I But yeah, exactly. So if I had, if I had a friend I could stay with in San Diego, I would have done really well at San Diego, But and there, there's still cool stuff to be found even in a place like San Diego. But I don't think it was just such a hassle, like just the getting in and out of there. Like they kind of don't give a shit about comic book small press people. And then I'll do a show like Heroes, and they'll hold a spot for me, and they make sure that someone's there to help me load my shit in, and they're like, they're about the comic books. Like they want they treat the creators really well there, whereas like I'm at the kids table when I go to San Diego for sure.
Well, I've always told creators that you need to do Heroes. Heroes is a comic con. Like people who go there, they want to buy art, they want to buy comics. Like that's what they believe in, that's what they want to do.
And we're also not competing with some red shirt from Star Trek from 40 years ago. You know what I mean? Like they're not even there, so I don't have to worry about 11 from Stranger Things being on a different floor than me. Then everybody's in line up there. Like that's how Phoenix is, man. It literally has like multiple floors of stuff, and I've had people go down to like the floor where like the vendors and everything are, and be like, oh, how long you get? Like, have they always had this stuff down here? I'm like, this used to be the show. Like, that upstairs stuff is nonsense. Like that's add-on. That's an addendum. But I mean, yeah, like I do even a show like New York that's huge. Like I do the Artist Alley is kind of away enough that people kind of know to go there who are into comics. So I don't do like I wouldn't do I'm not just showing these cons, but like I'm not going to do Dragon Con. Like I don't think I'm going to do
yeah.
Like nor would I kind of know that I could do SPX. Like I don't know like that's necessarily my jam. I think the closest I do to XPX is I do CXC and SoulCon in Columbus, right?
Okay, yeah, that's a good show.
It's really good, and it's also they do a brilliant job of like kind of the breadth of talent that they have there, right? Like it's not all just shoegazy like auto-bio comics that are done in a crude style in 2 colors and done on a risograph, right? It's not like just a sea of that where it's like, oh, here's like my donut shop experience this month.
Yeah.
You have guys there who are also doing big bombastic stuff and people who have like some mainstream success and got me doing luchadors and we all get along. So I think the way that Jeff and Tom used to run that show like was pretty good mix of not being elitist or up its own ass. I would probably say it's probably a better. I think there are shows that get up their own ass in a lot of different ways when it comes to celebrity signings, when it comes to being super ultra indie and having that kind of indie cred. And then also, I think Heroes and I think CXC is really good at qualifying, at curating their audiences or curating their vendors. And then, in addition to CXC, I also do a show that happens called SoulCon. It happens in Columbus the day before that show even starts, and that's all Black and brown creators.
Yes.
And that's like, and I do a lot of those. I do like a Latino Comics Expo. I do like a lot of Latino Comics Fest. I do SoulCon. I did BCAP in San Francisco. Like. And those I do really well at, and those are actually one of the cool places where you can see that, where you have guys doing shoegazy introspective stuff, and then people like, oh, this is my hero, but it just happens that all the heroes are usually people of color, right?
Yeah.
And it's representation in a way that you only see being given lip service by like bigger companies, right? Like they're saying they're being diverse because they changed Thor to a black woman for a day or two. You know what I mean? And that's it's disrespectful to the audience just to translate your white Anglo hero into brownness for a month or two or even a year is not inclusion. That's just it's brownwashing, right? It's just kind of it's a half-hearted attempt at like, oh, here we translated this we translated Steve Rogers' blonde blue-eyed Captain America into Spanish for you. There's your inclusion. They're like, he's like intrinsically not Latino. Like why would that why would that resonate with that culture? But I think their hearts are in the right place when they do that sort of thing. I just think much like Disney and the whole Coco debacle where they try to trademark the idea that's Wonderful. Like, I mean, they were trying to like make something authentic, but they didn't realize how in doing so they were doing the exact opposite of what they were trying to do. And they just they're just unaware. They're blissfully kind of live in a world that doesn't have to consider those sorts of things.
What's the old expression? The road to hell is paved with good intentions. You know?
Yeah.
And in some cases.
Yeah, there's a German word I just learned that means to screw something up while trying to fix it. It's a huge German word, but it's like
isn't it like
Schreuden?
Schadenfreude.
No. It's not that. It's I'd have to look it up, and I would terribly mispronounce it. But there is like it's specifically like that woman who tried to restore that fresco of Jesus, and then
yes,
there's a word for that exact thing. Tried to fix it and screwed it up. Yeah.
Well, I mean that's our lives though. So you got this thing going. It's going for 54 more days. We'll probably put this thing out on Monday, so it'll be like 50 days from there. But I mean, you've made a lot of traction so far, dude. I mean, $10,000 in like what 6 days is pretty damn good. Man. That's really good.
It's 5 full days at this point, but this is our 6th day. So yeah, we reached 10K, which is great. We're 25% funded, or a little more than 25% funded at this point. It's on track to fund. And I should point out, like, the book is completely done. Like, when you back me, you're not waiting on anything. Like,
that's nice. I
have to call I just have to call my printer and go print this number, and then we'll mail them out. And he's great. Like, I'm dealing with an in-house Tempe, Arizona printer. I can go do press checks. He's great. He knows what I'm trying to do, so he's going to meet my delivery dates. I've told him when it's going to close, what the expectation might be, kind of bracket-wise. He assures me he can do it. My only concern about delivery before Christmas is the post office right now, and that's above my pay grade, man. I can't fix that, so I'm hoping it exists and can still make deliveries on time.
No, I mean, I've spent the past month just writing my congressman, just saying, like, if you shut the post office down, man, I'm fucked. Like, my business is ruined. Granted, I don't tell him I create small press comics, but still, I'm a businessman who lives in your district, bro.
Yeah, it shouldn't matter. I think for whatever reason, I don't know why, Phoenix seems to be pretty unaffected by it.
That's good.
I kind of think it seems to me that kind of more liberal areas seem to be hurt by this. Not liberal areas. It might be the more, the ruby red Arizona that I live in might be actually helping me out. So they're going to make sure their gun catalogs get to where they need to go.
Hell yeah, man.
And no rain nor sleet nor snow is going to stop that. So I'm feeling good about it, and I'm just kind of doing, I'm getting out there on podcasts and stuff and letting more people know. So I think it's only going to get better. I'm sure it's going to fun. And then the other thing is, like, I'm not.
Listen to that. Hold on, though. I want you to. I mean, the way you just breeze through that, I'm sure it's gonna fun. It's like, God damn, that's just the confidence you're oozing. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah,
but the audience is there, and I'm willing to do the work to go find them, and so that's why I think. And here's the reason my number is so specific on my goal. Is because it literally just covers the cost with like a 5% difference. And so Kickstarter takes a piece, there's tax on everything. There are what's cost beyond my control, and there's the cost of printing it and the cost of shipping it.
Yes.
And I did all the math on that, and then I added tax, I added the Kickstarter's percentage, all of that. And then I gave myself 5% in case shipping ends up being more, or unexpected expenses. And that's the number. I could have rounded up. I could have said, okay, let's do 40,000. But I'm like, nope, 39,424. Like, that's the number.
It's like buying a new car. How much is that car? 34,934.
So people they're not paying me my page rate. I'm not getting. I'm not trying to make money off of this. I'm just trying to not go broke doing it.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I don't want to be on the hook for and here's the thing too. A lot of people will kind of do this and will play this game. Where I could have set the goal amount for lower, for about half of that, and then once it funded, know that it would fund even more and go over my goal because people saw that it 100% funded.
Yes.
You look successful, so people want to back it. And I just, when it comes to this kind of money, man, I can't be what if I only hit that goal and now I have to cough up the rest of that money? It's like I don't know where that's coming from.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to be like, hey, here, if you guys, and also I don't have exorbitantly high reward goal numbers. It's mostly just the book and a few little art items that I can get in the same envelope as the book because I don't want to have to be shipping giant posters and stuff. It's post office the way it is. It's like I want to be able to make sure, and it's all stuff in my control too. Like I'm not getting shirts made because I don't know if my t-shirt company is going to be in business tomorrow, or what happens when they try to ship it to me if their shipping is going to get screwed up. So those prints I'm screening myself. All of the stuff, the doodles I'm doing myself. Everything that the masks are the only thing that are being made by a mask maker. And that's why I'm only doing 20 of them. And I figure the people who kind of pledge at that level, you know, if I have to send them the book and everything else that they get, and then send them the mask later, they'll probably be okay with that. And that's the one thing I'm willing to kind of like, you know, like maybe ship twice. And at that point, I'll eat the cost on that printing then, you know, because it's only 20 of them, and it shouldn't cost that much to print a mask. They don't weigh that much. But yeah, man, like, I'm just trying to like cover my costs here. Like I'm really, you know, and I will, you know, I'm going to hand sell as many of these things as I have to. And so my number ends up being right about 800 people I break even. And that's just selling the books right now. Yeah. I could have easily padded that out by selling things that like, oh, you know, things that would cost more money, like original art or commissions or what have you. And part of me may do that, but again, I want to be able to get that all to people in a hurry.
Yes.
So
I'm going to tell you flat out, if you do a commission tier, you got a guy right there, that guy right there will buy a Dusty Rhodes commission.
We've already talked about this.
Yeah. We can make that happen. Yeah, and I think I'm going to be doing some things on the side to kind of raise some money for this too, and then I will just pledge that back into my own Kickstarter. Like, seriously, like I'm willing to back myself on this. You know, like, you know, so the truth of the matter is like I could have taken this in English only to a publisher and gotten a check for it, and then had it go to the direct market and stuff. But that's not the audience that I'm looking for. You know, like I could have made money in a hurry, and the direct market isn't interested in the version that I want to do, which is the bilingual flip book. And that's the exact reason I made the book, is because the direct market isn't interested in it. So here we are trying to sell it, you know, as a Kickstarter. And, you know, I have a lot of like friends who are trying to give me advice about like, man, you should have just taken it to this publisher, that publisher. You could have made money. It would have done this. And I'm like, yeah, but are they going to print the bilingual book? I'm like, well, probably not, because Spanish comics don't sell. And I'm like, because that's the conventional wisdom. I'm like, yeah, Spanish comics don't sell to the direct market. That's why I'm stepping outside the direct market. That's why Kickstarter exists. But again, I don't know that the Latino audience is necessarily even in tune with like Kickstarter comics, because I don't know how much of this has been created for them even on Kickstarter. But luckily I got Kickstarter. I got one of their favorite projects. Like I got to be highlighted as one of their favorites, which is cool. So I'm on that kind of like front page scrolling area of
short list, if you will.
Yeah, which is great. So I mean, like they're behind me, which is great. I just got like, you know, mentioned in a sci-fi article today about like
nice
Kickstarters. Yeah, and that I actually literally, someone else posted it because their comic was mentioned in it, and I went to check out their article and mine was in it. I'm like, oh shit, like they didn't even tell me, they just did it.
That's cool.
I feel like I'm getting a lot of cool validation from people that I haven't paid to tell, you know, to get my message out there, you know.
Yes.
It's like, so I feel like I'm doing the right thing. I feel like there's validity to what I'm trying to do here, and I just fucking know the audience is there. I just hope I can find them all in 60 days. You know, so that just allows me to take weekends off, mostly is what that 60 days is. I can go skating in the morning. I don't have to do this all, you know, 20 hours a day.
That's hilarious.
Just tweet the hell out of it, Jay. Just
you know, I kind of, you know, planned this in a way where I launched on a Friday, and I kind of let the weekend it was like a barometer for me to see what my social media reach would be, right? Like what my ability, my friends and family, social media ripple effect, like what that ends up being. And then, you know, this week is going to be kind of podcasting, getting out and being able to talk to people and kind of, you know, engage with audience kind of cohorts, right? To kind of see what that does for me. And I'm definitely going to do like like I'll buy some, you know, Kickstarter I'll buy some Facebook ads and some like, you know, Instagram ads and kind of, you know, try to get the message out there. But it, you know, you know, it doesn't mean no good to do it all at once, right? Like
yes.
And I also kind of wanted to see what this first weekend would be just with like kind of friends and family, just to see if, honestly, if it was kind of worth it. Like, you know, if I had made $500 over the weekend, I might have been like, well, shit, I'm just gonna let this thing run its course.
Let's pack this bad boy up. Circus is over.
But I think being a quarter funded in 5 days has given me, you know, that has given me the resolve to see this through to the end. And I'm gonna go down swinging, man. I mean, if I'm, you know, $50 short on the last day, like I'll call my folks up and be like, hey, pledge $50, or, you know, try to shake out whatever sofa cushions I have to. Like I said, man, I'm going to do stuff aside from the Kickstarter to raise money and then just pledge it back into my campaign.
Why not? I mean, there's at some point though, I mean, it almost makes sense because you're pot committed at that point, to use like a poker term. Well, if it costs you $1,500 to get 40,000, then so be it, Jedi. You know,
exactly.
That's like the dark side of Kickstarter that I don't think people really talk about, but yeah, it's a real thing. You know.
Well, the other thing about Kickstarter,
it has to be.
The other thing that they don't talk about is like, is like, so he's gonna get this now when his book funds with his confidence, which I applaud you, Jay, for that. So like people are gonna come up to you and be like, man, you big time now. You like made all that Kickstarter money. You'd be like, nah, man, that paid for the book. Because that's where we are. That's what happens to us. People are like, oh man, you guys are doing great. Like you guys made X amount on Kick. And we're like, no man, that paid for a book. We got the book. That's what we got. And they're like, oh, that's how that works. I'm like, no, that's how we did it because
that's how that works. Yeah,
that's how that works. Yeah, like
but the work has to be the reward, right? Because it takes me as long to do a single comic as it does to do 20,000 comics, right? Like no matter. You know, like it's still the same amount of work for me, you know. It to me, you know, like I just want to see the thing together and out in the world, and mostly I just want to get it in the hands of people who like are gonna dig it, man. Like, cause you know, I know it sounds sappy and like a PR point or whatever, but like, man, there's nothing better than like someone who's like, you know, bilingual or maybe speaks Spanish only, who comes up to me and is like, thank you, like this was cool, this is what I wanted, like, you know, thanks for making this thing that I've never seen before, like, you know, that seems like this neglected area of storytelling, and you know, that's what I want, man. It's just my book out in the world. And so again, I'm willing to back it myself. I'm willing to kind of leverage my sanity against it, because I just want it in a world that is horribly underserved by a market that preaches a lot of diversity but doesn't engage in a whole lot of it.
Well, we've talked about the process of and the I guess the barriers to creating it, but what is the book actually about?
Okay, so it's about so it's about lucha libre, I guess, overall, right?
Okay.
But specifically, it's about a once champion luchador who lives in the 1960s in Mexico of the 1960s. And in this, it's kind of like an alternate version of like Mexico, like an alternate history version of Mexico, wherein everything of any kind of importance is settled by luchadors, right? So like any kind of, it's telling me my connection's unstable here, guys. Am I still here?
Yeah, we still hear you.
Okay, cool, man. I'm sorry. Like, I'm just
okay.
worried about this connection. So, all right. So this is a Mexico where lucha libre is the most important thing that happens in that world. So if like my business wants to take over your business, like my luchador fights your luchador, and whoever wins wins, right? You know, like awesome. Laws want to get passed. Anything of any kind of import, you know, is kind of like settled by luchadors. Like in my head, lucha libre is as important in this world as like auto racing is in speed racing world, right? Like
okay.
It's the only thing that happens in that world, right? So I wanted to like up the stakes of like what these guys are, you know, what it means to be the champion there too, right? Is obviously a big deal. And so he's a champion, and he refuses to take a dive, but his friends aren't too proud to take that money and betray him and unmask him in the ring. And so now you never get to be that guy again.
Whoa.
And so he's just out for revenge, right? So he makes a Faustian bargain with this mysterious promoter, rolls up and is like, hey man, I'll give you some new power and a new identity, you know, that of Mano del Destino, to get your revenge. And so like all good Faustian comic book bargains, he finds out pretty quickly that there's strings attached. So he's trying to like get out of his deal, still get his revenge, but also still remain the person he knows himself to be, right? Because you don't want to like become such an animal and such a son of a bitch to getting your revenge that it alters who you are fundamentally. So, you know, and it all happens in this like really swanky jet age Mexico where everything's just super modern for like 1964. You know what I mean? It's just it's a retro futurist view of what the world could have been.
It totally has the New Frontier vibe to it.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going for. Yeah, just that like jet age Mexico is what I like to call it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And so I mean, and then because it happens in the 60s, I wanted the art style, like we talked about, it being like very Kirby influenced, very Silver Age storytelling. It looks like that, but I also produce it in such a manner where the blacks aren't quite 100%. There's a lot of picking in them, and they overprint. You can see the colors behind the blacks to a degree, like you would in an old comic book, and it's on uncoated paper, so it feels and smells like an old comic. So I literally wanted to create a relic from a time that didn't exist, right? Because, you know, I wanted to give people an experience more than I just want to tell them a story. Like I don't want to just walk them through the events. I'm like, here, like look, feel, smell this whole thing, and then get immersed in this world. And that's why the color palette is so limited and unique to kind of like Latino culture and the lucha libre culture. You know, it's like I really wanted, again, I wanted to confess my artifice from the get-go. Like this is a story, but then just enjoy the story. So I mean, there's obviously there's twists and turns. I also wanted to create characters who were aware. So in addition to the Silver Age look, I also do that kind of operatic, bombastic Stan Lee dialogue. Like everybody talks like they're making declarations, you know. So like, I gotta tell you, man, writing like Stan Lee is the funnest thing in the world. Use the purveyor of purloined promises just feels good. And so I do a lot of that, but you know, but I also wanted these guys to kind of be aware of like comic book tropes. So like, it's obviously he's just kind of like level his way up to a boss fight kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So at some point, I wanted the bad guys to go like, look, he's just working his way toward us. We need to cut him off now. You know, like the next guy, like that's exactly what he wants us to do. Just, you know, like I wanted them to acknowledge that, you know, like everyone's got motivations and you know, no one's really blind to that sort of thing. But like, you know, so yeah, it's a subversion of tropes by fully embracing them. I guess
that's perfect.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You know, that's wonderful. It's wonderful when comics know their comics.
Yeah,
you know,
for sure.
It's the best.
Yeah,
you know?
I love movie-ass movies and I love comic-ass comics.
Yeah,
you know, like,
that's wonderful. Well, like I said, El Mano del Destino is on Kickstarter right now. You can go there and back this book. It's a beautiful book. We're really happy that this thing is hopefully going. Well, I mean, and there's no hopes about it. Like you've already said, this thing's done. Like this is over.
He's got this.
You know,
by hook or by crook, man. I'm gonna make it happen.
He's got a pay window, baby. A pay.
That's
window.
right.
Yeah.
Well, Jay Gonzo's book, and I gotta tell you, that fucking Kickstarter video is like Spielberg presents, my friend. That thing is beautiful.
That's the first video I've ever done for anything.
Damn.
So let me back that up. So I worked in advertising for like 30 years.
Okay.
So I have.
How
like,
old are you, man? You can't.
I mean,
you don't have to say.
I'm 46, so I guess it's closer to. I get when I was 19. So yeah, it was like 20 or 30. I guess 27 years. I'm not quite sure. Yeah. So I mean, I've worked with directors and I've done TV commercials and infomercials and things like that. I have creative directed stuff before, but I've never done anything with my own equipment. And that's the thing too that kind of bums me out is like I'm so used to like, well, let's just get a Red and Alexa and we'll get out there and and now I'm like, well, I'm not running any of that. So I literally my son has a GoPro and I knew I was going to have to kind of get shots of like drawings and stuff like that. So like that overhead shot of me explaining a demo, it's like I didn't want to borrow someone's like camcorder and have to like somehow hold it above what I was doing. So I'm like, yeah, the GoPro will be fine. Like I can just use that. It's portable. It's small. I can pull the SD card, load it right into Premiere. I've got the Adobe suite because I work in advertising. Of course, I have the Creative Suite. So yeah, man, I shot it all on a GoPro, and I was just learning how to do like color correction, how to like.
That's awesome.
How to do any of that stuff, and I just watched. I've probably 20 hours of YouTube videos on like how to make videos. And I thank you so much for saying that it looks nice, though. Yeah,
dude, it looks great. Dude.
It looks great.
Man, it's a really good video.
That's the one thing that we have like real big problems with when we do ours is we're like not sure what people want to see or don't see. So we're like, do we just do us talking, or do we do this, or what do we do? Do we do the more shots of the book than us being ridiculous? Like, because I don't know what's going to sell it more, but like us talking about
it's a damn good looking video, man. It's like, yeah, it looks good.
Well, you have a cool day job already, don't you? You're a tattoo artist, right?
Yeah, well, it's less of a day job and more of a part-time thing. Like I've always tell people that being a tattoo artist is a lot like being an auto mechanic or a drug dealer. When your friends know that you can do it, they don't let you stop doing it.
Yeah.
So I tattooed for when I probably like from 21 to almost 30, I was like in a shop, but I was still doing like advertising on the side at that point. Then I had a kid and I got like full-time into advertising. I got like a real jobby job type job and had to, but still I was like tattooing on the weekends. I was tattooing people. Like I still had a spot at a shop. So I would just, tattoo here and there. And then kind of depending on like what my income flow is, I'll spend more or less days in the tattoo.
Yeah.
It's something like, I've been doing that for like, Jesus, since I was 21 and I'm 46 now. So I've been doing that for 25 years. Oh,
that's awesome.
That doesn't sound like anything. That doesn't sound possible. Yeah. So I've been doing that for 25 years. And I'm just at a really comfortable place where like I have a small portfolio and I have like like an Instagram account and people follow me, but more often than not I'm just tattooing friends of people who've like heard of me, and I'm not really auditioning for stuff anymore. Like if someone's like, hey, like how much for, or like can I see your portfolio? If someone at this point asks to see my portfolio to get tattooed from me, I'm like, I'll get tattooed from someone else. Like I don't like, I don't mean to be a dick, but I'm like, dude, if I don't know you well enough for you to know how well I tattoo, and you want me to like audition for you, then like I'm offer only, baby. Get the fuck out of here. Like go.
That's awesome.
That's great.
Get one of your Instagram tattoo guys.
Awesome.
So it's just So, but I do enjoy doing it. The pandemic has obviously curtailed that to a degree. Like the shop I'm in now is closed for 2 months, and we're back to like everybody's in a mask, one person at a time now. And I'm doing some last week, and I'm doing some, but that's the thing too is, man, at some point in my life, tattooing was this really marginalized kind of like biker, punker, dirty thing that happened off in the margins of society, and then there's TV shows about them. Now you can get into tattooing like it's fucking Star Trek, and I just can't. Like everybody wants to be a tattoo artist, but nobody wants to tattoo. And I just want a tattoo, man. So whenever like people ask about me or what, like oh, who are you? What do you do? I'm like, I'm nobody. Like I always I love being nobody in the business. Like
That's awesome.
It's the most workman thing I like to do because it is very zen. It's like I do do the drawing. Like I want everyone to be happy, right? Like I'm not such a rock star that like you're gonna get what I want to put on you. No, it's like I want what I do to be what you want, and I want you to be comfortable and happy with the end result because you have it for life, right? And so it's the most kind of like kind of service thing that I get to do, right? And I want the whole experience from like getting the drawings done to like the price on the tattoo. So I'm pretty cheap because again, like I make my money doing other stuff. So it's like I just want a tattoo. So I'm like, a lot of people are like, oh shit, I thought it was gonna be twice that. I'm like, yeah, I just want a tattoo, man. Like I don't need to like price gouge you on this.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's cool. And honestly, that kind of like how everyone's like, oh, it's such a cool like lifestyle. Like my wife's a piercer. And it's like, God, if you only knew the ins and outs of like what it took, like the hours of boredom of sitting around a shop and the hassles of having to deal in like a post Instagram tattoo society or piercing society. Like someone comes in with a phone and they're like, I want that tattoo. And I'm like, well, the person with that tattoo doesn't want you to have that tattoo. I guarantee you. And you have to explain to them, well, that's a bad idea. So, yeah, I dig it. I dig doing it, but it's not really like my main gig anymore. Honestly, I extracted myself from advertising about 3 years ago. Like I had been, but I've been an employee in more than 10 years now. I think 2008 was the last time I had a real, like I was an employee, like someone was my boss kind of thing. So I've just been freelancing around advertising, but also doing a lot of illustration work as I freelance in advertising, doing like creative direction, art direction, a little bit of design, but mostly creative and art direction because I've been doing it forever. And then I kind of got to a point with the company for about a year. I was there 1 day a week and then twice a week and then 3 days. And then at some point I was like there 5 days a week. And then they gave me like a parking pass. I'm like, I don't work here. Like, why do I have a parking pass? and
I'm a rebel, man. I'm out of here.
Well, not like that.
I'm just kidding.
They were starting to like ask me why I wasn't at like meetings or something. Like, why aren't you at the traffic meeting this morning? I'm like, I don't work here and I don't get paid for meetings. Like I'm hourly. Like I can't invoice you for meetings unless you want to let me invoice you for meetings, and then I'll be here for every meeting. I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. Like yeah, just come in at 10 then, because like everyone's there at 9 and then they have their 9:30 traffic meeting and nothing happens till 10. So I'm rolling in at 10 and they're giving me shit for being late. And I'm like, I don't fucking work here. So I just at some point I was like, I just kind of more jobs, and I took a little vacation and I came back and they were getting a little light on work, and then I got an illustration gig that was going to kind of keep me busy for like 6 to 8 months, and they called me on like a Monday. We're like, hey, you are coming in today? I'm like, no, actually I'm not anymore. I'm not. And then it was like good to have that kind of like fuck you money. And so then I started doing, like, I did that illustration gig for those, I think it ended up being like 8 months, and then I had lined up another one right after that, and then like two years went by and I just didn't need to do advertising. I got a couple phone calls for people to come do some freelance work. I'm like, man, I'm good. And then I did go back to do illustration for advertising agencies. Like I kind of, that's my deal with them now. Is like, if you need someone to do like storyboards, or you need someone to do illustration that you're actually going to use as an art element within the ads, or you need someone to do like marker comps for like an RFP that you guys are doing, like I'll come in and do that, because that shit gets done. Like that stuff, when you're done with it, you're done with it. Like, give it to them and they're done. Advertising is so fucking open-ended and everyone's got an opinion, and it's like the illustration part of it, like the marker renderings and comps, and like I get to be in charge of that, and no one second guesses me. You know what I mean? Like no one's talking to me about like perspective lines or anything. Like, but if I'm trying to come up with like a campaign initiative for someone's like national strategy or something, like I got AEs talking to me about font choices. I'm like, fucking really? Like, I thought after 25 years I got to be an expert in this sort of thing, but it turns out I needed to be the marketing director for a movie theater. That makes me an expert. So, I just I turned into a grumpy old man, I guess, when it came to advertising. It is not something you want to spend 25 fucking years in, I'll tell you that much. Like, I've heard somewhere there's like a stat where like either you spend 4 years in advertising or you spend 30 years in advertising. I did my close to 30 and I'm out. And like when I tell people, and I still know in the industry that I'm at, like, oh, where are you at now? Because they'll ask me like, everyone's always fishing for either to get a better gig or to pull you away from a gig, right? So So I'll run into like some of my ad friends, and the question is always like, "Where are you at?" I'm like, "Oh man, I'm nowhere. I'm just doing illustration now for a living." And you see this like their face lights up, like, "Oh really? Like
you can do that?
What? You can just not do advertising?" Like, yeah, man, there is life after advertising.
That's
you know,
all.
get out of
And
your cube.
there's life on Kickstarter, my man, and you are crushing it. This thing is going to be live for the next 50 days. El Mano del Destino, our boy Jago. Well, fuck, I just wanted to call you Jay Gonzalo, but that's not your name. You're just Jay Gonzo. That's your professional name. I almost went with your real name that people can't know because they'll find you and then they'll drag you back into advertising.
Like he's an unmasked luchador.
Exactly.
He was the advertising luchador, but he got unmasked, so now he has to be like.
Now I have to be like Jay Gonzo. No, actually, people in advertising just call me Gonzo. Like my business is Jay Gonzo Designs, but I should say too, it's La Mano del Destino.
Oh, excuse me.
I don't know why. Yeah, Spanish is weird. It like based on the rules, yes, it should be L, but it's not.
Yeah, because that's I took 8th grade Spanish.
Yeah.
I took 8th grade Spanish. Mono is masculine, friend.
But like, go to a bathroom where the sign says all employees must wash their hands.
Yes.
Las Manos, yeah.
Las Manos, always Las Manos.
I'm not gonna correct you. You're a native speaker. I'm just some idiot who took it in 8th grade.
Yeah, I speak terrible Spanish. Like I'm a high functioning pocho. Yeah, I don't speak. Sí, hablo un poquito de español y muy mal, pero estoy aprendiendo. Like I know enough to sound like I kind of know what I'm doing, but
I know what you said though. That's
I got it.
Don't ask me to repeat it, but that's awesome.
Yeah, like my pronunciation's fine. I don't have a vocabulary to back it up.
And it's not machine gun Spanish because.
It's Spanish. I mean,
my sister's husband was Dominican, and his family speaks machine gun Spanish, and they're like, "Did you catch that?" Basically, and I'd be like, "No, un pequeño." Like I got a little, like, because one of his relatives barely speaks any English, so it was like I didn't catch all of it. Like you have to say it again because she understands English, but she can't speak it. So it's like
Spanish gets really fast. Like Cubans and Dominicans and like. I think Puerto Ricans are maybe a little slower, but I definitely can't follow a Cuban. Like they're way too fast for me.
So fast, I would be like, oh my goodness! I caught I'd be like this. I caught that much of it. Yeah. Legit.
They also have a different slang and dialect. So yeah, I should also. I mean, since we're talking about this, so the Spanish that I'm translating the flip book into, so that the Spanish half of the book is Mexican Spanish.
Okay.
And not like like Spain Spanish or like Argentinian Spanish, that kind of like highfalutin Spanish. No, it's Mexican Spanish. So,
You said highfalutin Spanish.
Yeah, Argentinians like
hoity-toity.
Well, like Spain got corrupted by that king who had the lisp, right? So you had like your Pozada and Barcelona. So like they kind of all carry a little bit of a lisp to the way they speak. But Argentina has like a lot of European, like Spain Spanish were there for so long. They almost completely displaced the indigenous people. Like they're almost completely like, but they speak like a very kind of distilled, preserved version of Spanish. So much so that like Spanish and Mexican and like even all South American, like a lot of their newscasters will come study Spanish in Argentina to get that crisp kind of like clear Spanish sound. Yeah, which is part of their But they also have like they like to pretend that they're European. So they, it's a highfalutenness that I can't abide. But the language is beautiful. Yeah.
Well, check this
pecking order for sure.
Check this book out on Kickstarter. Jay, thank you so much for coming on, man. That was a blast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it, guys.
All right, and that was Jay Gonzo talking about